each other over rulers that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood ones, a holly. Suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempt the mental robbery, executed sloppily. The paupers see this mockery and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true and beautiful, friends. It's nice to see you here tonight. And already we've got Philip in the chat. What's up? If you're on Facebook, I can't see your comments until after the chat is totally over. So if you'd like to interact live like this, come and say hi on DLive or on YouTube. Just search for Rogueways and you'll find it. Rogueways, R-O-G-U-E, not Rouge, but Rogue. That is how we'll do it. Yeah, it's good to see you guys. I have a lot of things that I want to talk about, and it was unclear to me which of them I'm going to talk about, but I'm sure that they'll involve synchronicity at some level and the meaning therein that we can find. So we'll definitely talk about that. As usual, I would like to remind you all of the things that you can do. You can go to CoreySharman.com. That's my pen name. It's also rogueways.org. That will take you here. You can find things I write. I'm a big fan of this most recent poem I did yesterday, if you want to check that out. And Logic 2020 is an event I'm putting together this summer solstice on the eclipse in Pennsylvania. It's going to be an amazing group of people and some really cool, deep, spiritual and fun and eclectic tours and activities. So check that out if you're into it. I offer tarot for those of you who would like some a reading. It's a depth that I think a lot of people didn't realize they could get from something like tarot. I have a pretty high success rate for people. I'd like to say 100% of people are usually amazed at the clarity of the tarot reading that they get and how well it fits their life and how much it gives them info and insight. You can also come over here to shop and you can find Rogueways gear like the mug that I'm holding and the shirt that I own, which is the one in the picture, as well as many other shirts and fun things. If you want to support the show in a fun way and support that beautiful logo, again, you can get those logic ticks here. And if you do look into the classes and tarot section, it's just one more way to buy tarot. It'll give you a little bit more breakdown on the tarot readings that you can get and what they're all about. But there's also classes like Tarot Basics class. There's a Psycho-Spiritual Protection class. There's a Finding Spiritual Allies class. And then I also offer guidance sessions. I have some people who want to work through some things, some goals in their life that they want help getting getting things accomplished and getting more clarity and stuff. So that's also available to people. So there's a lot to look here at the site if you want to go check that out. And then there's also Subscribestar, which is awesome. The people who are in my Subscribestar are just so cool. I'm really grateful that I'm able to be supported in what I do, because this is the only way that I really get any sort of income from any of this stuff, and it's awesome. And right now there's a giveaway, and this is for the public or all people who are already on Subscribestar, and I've made these coasters, and those are real fresh pressed live flowers. Well, they're not live anymore, as you can see, but they're very vibrant still. Those colors are intact, which is really cool to see. So this is a $50 value, and if you would like to own those, all you have to do is become a subscriber. There is subscribers at the $1 level, the $7 level, the $22 level, and a $55 level. And $55 only sounds like a lot until you realize that a $60 tarot reading is included every month for you, so you're actually getting a discount on that and all the other stuff that's available on Subscribestar, like my audiobook and interviews that I do that aren't posted on YouTube, that no one ever sees unless they're on Subscribestar, and the book that is in audio format and is available now, or is coming out now step by step as we get it recorded and what is it called? Audio mastered or whatever. As that's getting finished up, that's coming out on Subscribestar, and Sine Curve of Aeons is that novel. The sequel to this has just been finished recently. If you've been paying attention, you knew that. And if you're new, now you know. That book is also done. That book, I don't know, it's closer to my heart now, so I really love it, and I can't wait for people to get to enjoy it. So that's all coming. And maybe it'll come faster now that we've got the social distancing and the quarantining and these things going on. And I didn't want this to be a Corona show. I didn't want to talk about that because I feel like people are getting enough of it, and especially on a fear vibration level. And so I do actually want to talk about it for a minute on a non-fear level, because I want to just keep some perspective in this. One thing, sorry, I had to get a hair off of my thing. One thing that I want you guys to keep in mind is that you can keep yourself very, very healthy. And the healthier you keep yourself, this is true of any virus and any infection ever to come your way. You're covered in viruses and bacteria all the time. You're exposed to them 100% of your life. You're never, ever in a space that is pristinely clear of those things. And so it's the same as always, and that you want to keep your body healthy and your mind healthy and your heart healthy too. And part of how you can do that really well is pretty easy and pretty cheap. You can go to your local store. What's up, Brian? Nice to see you. Just saw him pop up. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody else. If you're there, say what's up so we can say hi. You can go to your store and you can get vitamin D3 for very cheap. And you can get it's not a vitamin, but it's an amino acid, I think. It's called NAC. You can look up what that means if you want. I forget what. But those two in conjunction do amazing things. And I've seen them make a horrifying virus that was like the worst I've ever seen. Like deep chills and high fevers and just horrible. It sounds actually like coronavirus. I don't know if that's what we had or not. But I saw it go from what other people were saying lasted them weeks and weeks to a matter of literally 4 or 5 days by taking just those supplements. And so if you can still get to your stores and those should be on the shelves. People aren't somehow ransacking vitamins and minerals. They're ransacking like toaster strudels and whatever, bags of chips and shit and toilet paper. So you can still get good stuff to help you in this time. And so check that out if you haven't yet. Those are a must-have. And then I also just watched something that was talking about vitamin E and selenium. And I already take selenium because I have a thyroid condition and it helps with that. And I don't have vitamin E. And so I want to get some because I guess in conjunction, those also can reduce the severity of a cold or a flu and be preventative. So both of those that I just listed are preventative. You start taking them now before you've ever had any symptoms of anything, and you'll never get anything because they're very powerful. Dick Cheney is here. What's up, Dick Cheney? That man loves me. He just wants to stop getting shot in the face and just have some fun, and that's okay with us. So do those things preventatively and take care of yourselves in those ways. Also, exercising is always good for your immune system. I know we don't love it all the time, and it's not always easy to find the time to do it. But it's really nice if you want to do some push-ups and take a walk around the block at least, just to keep your lymph system moving and to keep some energy and some pep in your step. It's even when you feel kind of cruddy, and especially when you're feeling mopey and down, just going outside and taking a quick walk can really do wonders for you. You'd be amazed if you haven't tried it. So keep your energy up and keep exercising somehow. I even have a friend who messaged me and said that they're looking forward to the quarantine workout that they developed, which they're calling the Coronator, which is awesome. And it's going to be a combination of meditation, strength training, with weights and resistance and push-ups and that kind of stuff, and flexibility training. So this is a cool actually combo if you're stuck inside to do meditation. I think I'd put the meditation last because then you're fully there in your body and kind of zenned out. And so but whatever order you want to do it, do meditation, strength training, and some stretching. Sounds pretty cool. Is it echoing? It shouldn't be. Sorry about that. When it does it, it's just magic. There's nothing that started it, and it'll stop by itself, and there's nothing that can stop it. But I hope it gets better so you guys don't have to listen to Robot Lindsay all day. But I liked also that this person was doing this workout in a humorous way. The Coronator is funny. And when we keep our humor alive, that also does good things for our immune system and for our mind, and to keep us calm and to remind us that, it's just life. Shit happens and it's going to be okay. In the end, no matter what was ever going to happen on the way there, you were going to die. That was going to happen no matter what. And the poem I wrote yesterday said, you can't know the moment of your death or how you're going to die, and you can't control that, but you can control how you live. And so that's what you want to do while you're here. You want to control how you live. So keep laughing and keep sharing that with people, because people really need it right now. People really need for you to be their friend who is, somewhat chill and calm and collected and has some perspective to share and has some humor to share, and perhaps maybe try to help people process through some of the shit that they're going through, because there is a ton of fear and it's weighing really heavy on people, and everyone's looking everywhere they can and scanning everything they can and collecting all the information they can. You're like hoarding information almost, and it's like this addiction, which is, I think, if I were gonna guess, exactly what they want, because that keeps you locked into this wavelength that they've created for you. And it'd be way better if you create your own wavelength and push that out into the world and process some of this fear with people. And sometimes that can be as simple as sitting out on the ground, as I always say, like put your feet in the ground. And today I went up to some trees and just like touched them and put all my, any negative energy. These beautiful trees can do so much for us. Put all your negative energy into them and they just root that right down into the ground for you. Say, thank you, tree. That was awesome. And it's actually a thing, like electrons are transferring and you actually are grounding out some energy when you do things like that. So if you're a materialist, there's that for you. You can look into it. If you're not a materialist, you already know those types of things can make you feel really good. So I don't know if I said what's up to Ryan Peterson. Hey, Ryan. Sonia's here. Sasha's here. What's up, Sasha? Chris is here. Chris is in the house. All my loves, all my peeps. Jason's here. What's up, Jason? And yes, Jason, I was going to say the same thing. Not necessarily preventative, although you can do all these things preventatively, but especially if you do start to come down with some kind of a sniffle or some sort of an infection, elderberry we know helps a lot. This is science. This is not magic. Like, we just made plants in a bowl and we think we're healthy. Like, these are things that we know actually work. Elderberry colloidal silver is really good. I gargle with it. I spray it on my throat when I start getting that throat itch. And you can just take it also and drink some or whatever. Follow the directions. You don't want to turn your skin blue. Oregano oil is really powerful. When I did get really sick recently, I was taking a lot of oregano oil. That fights infections for you. And zinc. Jason, you have the exact same list that I have here. It's exactly what I was going to go through. Those things are all proven to reduce the severity and intensity and length of your viral infection. So, and bacterial. Some of those also are good for bacteria. But right now, everybody's we're worried about the virus. And so, yeah, keep those things in mind. Even if everything they say about this is true, you have a very, very small chance of actually getting this illness. A very, very small chance of actually getting it. Very few people are getting infected with this. In the overall grand scheme of things, it's very small. Even if you do get infected, very, very few people of that category are dying. Very few of them. Lots of people go to the hospital like pretty early and quickly because of all this fear that we're programmed with, and the hospital is not necessarily able to do much for you except keep you hydrated. So those things that we just listed that you can do for yourself at home, and feel a lot more comfortable. And unless you're like really about to die, you probably don't need a hospital. And even then it's, we hope that they can do something for you, but they're not magicians. They can support your body's natural function, and that's it. There's no magic pill for a virus. Viruses don't have cures and antidotes. So yeah, keep yourself grounded. Keep yourself as happy as you can. Not in a false, like, I don't see reality, but like in a, like we're still just people who are living through something, and we're all here together, and there's lots of humor and joy we can find in this time. And there's lots of ways we can share that with other people, and that keeps us feeling good. And that feeling and that idea of being healthy and well is half of the battle against any virus. It really does only get to people who have allowed a sort of entrance for it, whether it's by being stressed out or by having poor health in general or not eating well, not ever exercising or getting fresh air, or especially people with other conditions that have taken place in their bodies and made them in a weakened state. Those are the people who are getting sick. It's very, very rare that someone happy, healthy, high spirits and all of that can even get sick. And even if they do, it's usually very, very quick and very easily shoved aside. So yeah, I didn't really want to spend much time talking about coronavirus, but I wanted to just reaffirm that everybody's okay. And remember also, especially remember this, There's lots of viruses that are going around no matter what else is going around. So like take like, coronavirus or COVID or whatever out of the equation. There's other coronaviruses and colds, it's just a cold, that are going around any given year. There's flus that are going around. And I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying this to remind you that even if you did get sick in the upcoming month or whatever, it could be anything. It's not necessarily a coronavirus. It's not necessarily a virus that is a bit more deadly than others, but still, in the grand scheme of things, like not that deadly. It could be just a regular cold. It could be a flu. It could be something else. Last week I had allergies, and I was like, fuck, maybe I'm getting this thing. Nope, it was just allergies for like 3 days. I had sinus congestion and throat stuff and sort of swollen glands, and it was just allergies. So if you do start getting things like that, like don't freak out and don't assume the worst. Assume the best. Assume that it's allergies. Assume that it's a quick acting kind of here and gone cold. And again, treat yourself well. Give yourself and your body all the fighting chances that you can to get through this, and it'll go away and you'll be fine. And finally, I want to remind you that if you do get a fever, that's when you know you're sick, right? That's when you can be sure it's not allergies and that you are sick. And even then, it could be another virus and not this one. But in that case, if you are getting to that point where you're having a virus and you haven't yet, my experience and my advice now is to fast. And by fasting, I mean don't eat food and don't eat sugar and don't drink sugary drinks. Don't drink calories and actually fast. Give your body a chance to get the benefits of fasting. And if you haven't looked into them, you can. There's a billion resources out there about fasting. And there's some people who shouldn't fast, but there are very few of you. So most people can fast and do it really well. And I'm not even sure with the people who aren't supposed to fast in general, if they should fast during a virus, it's possible. So even if you think you're someone who's been told you shouldn't fast, you may want to look into that too. But fasting gives your body a chance when it's not busy digesting all this food, which as Americans we have too much of anyway, all of us, almost all the time. Very few of us don't have enough or whatever. But it gives your body a chance to get into what they call autophagy, which from what I understand is, I'm not a scientist, so again, go research all this, but this is what I understand, this is what I practice now. Autophagy is when your body is eating up sort of dead and useless cells. And so whether those are cells that might have been kind of cancerous at some point in your life, or whether they're cells that a virus has come in and used, this is what viruses do, is they self-replicate using your own cells. And so that cell is now compromised. So if you go into autophagy and you're fasting and you're not having any caloric drinks or any food, then your body can delete those cells more easily. And it actually then is using those for fuel, which is kind of rad. You're like taking the infection and you're like, fuck you, I'll use you to my advantage, which is awesome. So fasting is not as hard as you think. Fasting where you just literally have no food and no caloric drinks is hard until you have snake juice, which is what this is, because I'm on a 3-day fast right now, which I figured I would do it preemptively and give my body a chance to get even healthier, in case anything is going to come my way and try to get me. It's not going to get me because I'm going to be in a state of really high health, and part of that is this fast I'm doing. I don't suggest you jump into a 3-day, but I don't suggest you don't either. I just, you want to think about it. But this thing called snake juice, Cole Robinson, I think that's his name. He does Snake Diet. You can look him up. And this is a balance of nutrients and minerals that your body needs to survive. So it weirdly keeps you satiated. It's salt, baking soda, and something called no salt, which is high in potassium, if I remember correctly. And so it's a pretty salty tasting drink. It's a salty beverage, but it's amazing. Like, I will go a very long time, longer than I ever thought I could have gone not eating and be totally satisfied, because my body actually has the minerals it needs. And we all know it already has the calories it needs, just like yours probably does, because we stored some extras there over time, right? So fasting can be really good. And again, the last time I got sick, which really might have been this coronavirus, it was pretty fucked up, and it was similar to what they're saying happened. We were taken down, and neither of us ever get sick. But we fasted, and I didn't do it as well because I'm a weak person, and I had a soup, I think, or so. I had a soup each day or whatever. I did something and I had Gatorade, which is not fasting at all. And so my guy Johnny, his was only like 4 days. 4 days he was like hit really hard. It like rushed in and got him. And then it was gone because he fasted that whole time and he was just fine. And I didn't fast very well. Like I said, I cheated. I had like Gatorade and soup and little things, still less than we kind of like pile into our bodies normally, but I didn't do it right. And mine was 9 days, like double. And we're just as healthy. If not, I would have thought maybe I was even healthier, but I was totally wrong. And we were doing all the same supplements, zinc, elderly, all the whole thing. Bone broth. If I didn't say bone broth, make bone broth and drink it. It's really good for you too. I'm also doing that. But yeah, it's the severity was dramatically reduced. That his length was dramatically reduced, and that was through fasting. And again, you want to do it right. So you want to look into snake juice or minerals that you can put in your water to keep your brain and your heart going. But otherwise, it's a great option. And maybe I'll stop babbling about fasting now. But I'm going to say what's up to Gordon. What's up, Gordon? It's nice to see you. And Lacey's here. What's up, Lacey? And I hope that I got everybody. If not, say hello and I'll try to grab you. And let's see. Question. Doesn't it dry you out? I'm guessing you're asking about fasting. And no, I drink water. Lots of water. Lots of water with lots of minerals in them. So, the right balance of minerals, which is important too. So it does not dry me out in any way. I keep very hydrated. And all that salt, no, it's not that much salt. I mean, compared to what you would normally eat, what this is meant to do is give you the minerals you would normally be eating. And so it's just the same amount. I keep holding this bottle up. This isn't as much as I drink in a day. I drink 2 of these because I suck at drinking water. I think what they actually recommend is 2 of these is a half gallon. I think they recommend a gallon. I don't do that. I just do this and then have tea. And some people think having tea is cheating, but my tea is all like organic and herbal. Right now it's mushroom and turmeric, and I don't put any sugar or honey in it. So I don't think it's bad if I do that. It's not caloric, so it's not digesting, and I'm just going to justify my tea drinking because I love it. Can you drink ocean water? Were they lying to us about that too? You can technically drink ocean water. I've done it. I used to live by the ocean. I went there frequently as a kid, and some gets in your water or your mouth and you drink it, and it's not like it's going to kill you. The saltiness of the water, if I am not wrong, is a lot higher than the saltiness of this. And I know that when you drink really high contents of salt, it goes right through you. Like graphically. And so, if you do that and you're losing all of your water instantly through your bowels, and it sort of like strips your intestines a bit, like people do this on purpose sometimes to get things moving, then you're going to become really dehydrated. And if you don't have a fresh source of water to replenish with, then that would definitely dry you out. So you can drink it. From my own experience, you can drink it and not die, but you don't want to drink it as a source of water because it would make you sick. Gatorade is the devil. It does. I didn't know that it doesn't actually hydrate you. It's a bunch of bullshit. It's total bullshit. You can make your own Gatorade by putting a little bit of salt and a little bit of sugar and water and drinking that, and that's way more hydrating. It doesn't have all this bullshit in it. I mean, I knew it had bullshit in it, but I thought that it at least hydrated you. And when I used to drink, I would drink it the next day and feel like it was really great, and it's not, and it is kind of fucked up. But Jason says, it seems counterintuitive, but when we feel dehydrated, we need more salt. I did not know that. I have actually been learning a lot about just, what do they call it? Dead water? Water that's, sterilized, I'm going to forget all my words now, but basically filtered water, or that other kind of water that's not filtered, but it de-evaporates and then falls back down. You know what I'm talking about. That's dead water, and I didn't know that. It doesn't have any minerals left in it because you filtered them all out. You cleaned them all out, and so your body, it is actually stripping your body. It's actually dehydrating you in a way, more killing you in a way. If you haven't eaten and gotten some minerals from that, or you don't put minerals back in your water, it's actually bad for you. This is something I did not know until a couple of years ago. And I would always drink sterilized dead water, and I was harming myself probably, but I mean, I think I've always eaten enough to get enough, but whatever. You want to be aware at least that you do want some stuff in your water. I Ice water versus room temperature water, which is best? I don't know. I drink room temperature just because I'm like lazy and that's basically what I do. My water sits around for hours and then I drink it. But I have heard that drinking ice water first thing in the morning like jump starts your system. I'm not opposed to that. I've heard your body has to like work more to get it the right temperature, and so that somehow does something with your something, I don't know, but the drink stuff. Yeah, go look up snake diet if you want to learn more about the ratios. I don't want to say them because if I say them wrong and then you do them, I'm going to feel bad. But go look up snake diet, Cole Robinson, and he'll tell you the exact right thing. He's a madman. He's amazing. He'll tell you exactly what to do. And yeah, coconut water is the best electrolyte balance especially in a natural little package there. That's what nature made for us. That's pretty cool. And pink salt is the best. That's right, Chris. So yeah, that's the much too long intro to this show. But I think it's cool to do all those things preemptively too. Like I was telling you, I'm doing this fast as like a jump start to my immune system to make sure that, whether I've been exposed to some stuff and it's trying to seed itself in my cells in there, or whether I might be soon in the future exposed to some junk, I just want to keep my body well and keep my chances of not going through suffering as high as they can be. And it'd be neat if we were always on this bent. It'd be neat if we were always like, I don't want to get sick. Here's the ways we're going to do that. But, here's an opportunity for us to reflect on how well we want to be and how we can be in control of that and do the best we can with it. So I had like a bunch of really synchronistic moments come back to me recently, and in pretty powerful ways. And when they first happened, they were really powerful. And so I have one that's Irish, and it's St. Patrick's Day today. Despite that Brett tried to make me think it was Sunday, it's today, or Saturday, or whatever. It's today. Today's the official St. Patrick's Day. So I have one that has to do with Ireland. It's pretty weird. It's cool. It's fun. And I have some others that don't have to do with Ireland and have more to do with this sort of process we're undergoing as a species right now with all of this fear and control grabbing and whatever the government is doing, whatever they think they're doing. So I guess I'll start with the Irish one since it's St. Patrick's Day. And basically when I was young, I'm going to say it was pre-surgery. So I think I was 15. I had major back surgery when I was 16 and that has affected my entire life. And so I think it was before then. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, I think I was 15. I was a severe drug abuser and I had been for years. I started drinking when I was 9 years old. It's weird because I didn't keep drinking or doing drugs at that point, but there was like a stint that I had with a friend where we were drinking vodka and orange juice, and and when I look back on it, we like didn't really know that we were getting drunk and or that like what we were doing. It was weird. We didn't really, we knew we weren't supposed to do it, but we knew the adults did it all the time, and so we just wanted to try it and see what it was all about. And so we would get drunk and play old school NES like upside down from the bed, and just laugh our asses off and then go to sleep. And we had no idea that we were getting drunk. But so that's where it started. But I started doing drugs pretty heavily when I was like 13 or so. And the whole kind of gamut, like I was instantly kind of doing crystal meth and acid and a little bit of cocaine, not much because it's kind of expensive, and some heavy stuff. And so it had been a couple years already that I had been in that mode. And then my friend, who I met when I was a child, totally synchronously and randomly, she was very, very wealthy, and her family owned businesses that are world renowned, and I, on the other hand, lived in a very tiny like shack with 5 people, and she lived, how many people did she have? 5 people too, 6 sometimes, in a huge mansion. Seemed to me a huge mansion. I go look at it nowadays and I'm like, oh, it's just kind of a normal sized house now, but I guess in the 90s, 80s or whatever, it was no, it wasn't Harmony. Neither the drinking story nor the one I'm telling is Harmony, although I've known Harmony since back then too, and Sonia in the group. We've all been friends for a long ass time. But Where was that? So yeah, her family's very rich. My family's very poor. I was allowed to go to her house, but she wasn't allowed to go to my house. So we'll put it that way. I think my house was really fun, but we were very, very poor. Anyway, her house was super cool to go to, and her family like really loved me because I think they saw like, you know, this kid wears like shitty clothes and is always hungry, and like we should take care of her or whatever. And so her dad became sort of my fake dad, and we were pretty close. And so when we were older and we were in high school, her dad decided to take her because she was a Francophile. She was obsessed with France, and he decided to take her to France. But while doing France, he wanted to do like the whole European thing. And so we went on a 3-week tour. She got to choose one friend to bring, and she chose me, and it's changed my life forever, because I never would have been able to afford that or do that trip without them. They paid for everything. I just had to buy my plane ticket, which we came up with that money because it was such a good opportunity for me. And so very lucky. Sonia's spilling the secrets. Yes, Jamie is the friend that I'm talking about. I was super lucky to do this life-changing trip. So, and I didn't know going into it how life-changing it would be. I just knew that it would be cool to travel and to go to these places. So we landed in Heathrow. And so, was this my first time out of the country? Aside from Canada, which was just up the road from us. I can't remember because I also went to Mexico with a friend, but I think that was later. Anyway, I went to Heathrow. I went to England, and it was pretty cool. So we went to Heathrow. We went over to... We checked out Liverpool or wherever. We did like the Beatles thing. We went over to Stonehenge. So I've been to Stonehenge, which was at that moment the crowning achievement of my life, and it's still one of the coolest things I've ever done. It's disappointing because you're like pretty far away from the stones. You don't get anywhere near them, and it's even more disappointing now that I've seen like pictures of them building Stonehenge in the 40s or whatever. So I really don't know if it's as ancient as they say or not. But it's a cool structure nonetheless, and the energy imbued there is still very strong, and you can feel it when you're there. It's pretty cool, like the awe that you feel, and it feels ancient to me, to be honest, when I was there. But I was a lot less in tune than I am now, so who knows if I went back how it would feel, but who knows. Anyways, it was cool. And then we got to drive up through England, pastoral, beautiful England. That was amazing. And this is all right at the beginning of the trip. And again, I'm like 15 or something. And we get up to Scotland, and it's weird in Scotland because people are speaking English, but you can't understand them. And I was like, what the hell is this all about? And we got to go on a hovercraft across... Shoot, now I'm mixing up. I think I went on a hovercraft across the English Channel, so I can't remember how we went to Ireland, but it was by boat of some kind, and we went to Ireland. And so, I'm not deleting any comments, man. No one cares. Everybody loves verdant, like blasting green just everywhere you look, and that same sort of heavy sky, and always, dense. Not necessarily raining when we were there. It was the summer, but you could tell that it was going to rain the rest of the year, just like it does in Washington, and felt a lot like home. Very, very moist. And it was cool. And so it was neat when I got there. I instantly kind of felt that aspect, at least. But there's something deeper than that I felt too, but I didn't know what it was because everything is new, and I'm young, and I'm in Europe, and so it's all kind of crazy and whatever. But the first night that we were there, we went to this dinner at this place, and I had my first experience of really extended deja vu. And so this is the synchronicity, that I was sitting and it hit me that I was having deja vu, but the part that was different than it ever had been before was that I knew, every single detail of every moment in the order that it was going to come in with perfect clarity before it came. So for example, I knew this person at this part of the table was going to turn and like put their hand on their head. And then I knew the person next to them was going to say, well, isn't that neat? And then I knew that someone was going to like grab the salt and put it on their fish or whatever. And then I knew the waitress was going to come by, and who I hadn't even seen yet, and that she was going to be wearing a purple shirt with, black boots or whatever. And it all would happen exactly as I knew it was going to in my mind before it happened. And this lasted for what I cannot know because I didn't time it, but what seems like after it was over, looking back and what is still in my head now, that it was at least a full 60 seconds, if not longer. So it was the most mind-blowing thing that had happened to my little mind since at that point in life. And this changed me forever, because I at that moment understood on a impossible to change level, indelibly now in my soul, I knew that I had done all this before, or that I knew at least what was coming, and that I couldn't necessarily be surprised. And so even though I didn't always have that experience of deja vu, especially not like that, I've never had that happen since then again. But I have never lost that lesson that what's happening and what's coming. You just at some point have disconnected it or chosen not to remember, because it would ruin the fun and the point and the lesson of most of the things. I was sober. I was 15 with a very Christian family in a very Christian land. And actually, the kids in Ireland were all drinking, so I probably could have drank if I hadn't been with that family. But that family was in no way going to let us be not sober that whole trip. So we were very sober the whole time. In fact, I smoked cigarettes at the time. And obviously, so I did a bunch of drugs. I smoked cigarettes too. And I had a hard time sneaking cigarettes with that family. They did not want me to smoke and would have thrown the cigarettes away if they found them, and etc. So I wasn't even really smoking that much, which was interesting. But so that, I guess that's not a traditional synchronicity, but I feel like it's the same meat of it and the same meaning of it and the same purpose of it, which is however you want to think about it, God or your soul or your allies or your spiritual allies or your higher self. It's those elements of our existence, telling you and showing you in no uncertain terms that there's more to life than just your body and just you sitting in a restaurant eating fish or whatever in Ireland, that there's something else going on here and that it's significant. And so that stuck with me. Obviously, it still has stuck with me. But the next few days were sort of like, if you could imagine experiencing that and then being waiting, is it going to happen again? Or what's going to happen now? Or did it happen because I'm about to die? Am I going to die? When am I going to die? These things, because we don't really understand these things. And especially when we first experience them, we're like, well, what does it mean that happens to you? What is that thing? There's no way that I could have known those things, that I knew them. So what does it mean? So I'm going through all of this in a foreign country with people who, if I would have told them, would have thought that something satanic was happening. And so I didn't. And so I was sitting with myself too, and we didn't have cell phones, so I couldn't call home and call, Sonia here or whatever and be like, dude, what happened to me? So I was kind of going through all this alone in a way. And we went to a place called the Giant's Causeway, which you may have heard of. It's also in Ireland. And it's these hexagonal structures of stone. Maybe it's basalt, I can't remember. And they created this. I'm going to just show you a picture because it's fucking rad. And I didn't know we were going there, and I had never seen it before or heard of it. But this is it. It's crazy. You can see these are all in columns here. It's columnar. And it's just all over. It's gorgeous. This picture barely does it justice. It's amazing. And I got to sit there and wander around by myself and meditate and ground on this structure. And I can't even explain to you how cool that was. And this is to someone who's, uninitiated or whatever, unaware of how deep life can be and what things can kind of be all about. And even I was deeply moved by being here, because again, I forget why they tell you this is volcano spewed out and it all had certain polarities or whatever, and then it made itself into columns, and it's crystalline and whatever that is. It's sure, but also it's magic. This is magic here. Really, really cool. And I had back then one of my first inklings that something else was going on than what they were telling us, because we had the normal There's like people there telling you what's going on, and there's like signs and stuff that tell you what it's all about and why these things are in these columns like this and whatever. But there was some of these stones that had like drill holes in them. And I was like, well, drill holes aren't supposed to exist in like just rock, like hard rock. Like what? Why are there drill holes? And I have these pictures as actual 3-dimensional pictures somewhere, but I'm looking to see if any of these might have it, but no, I don't think so. But yeah, there was drill holes. They were perfectly spaced apart. So, if you're looking at one of these, there'd be like one here, one here, one here, one here or something. And they'd all be perfectly evenly spaced and the exact same diameter and drilled, straight and perfect. And that, again, blew my mind. I was like, sorry, there was one more picture I saw here that I wanted to show you. This bridge was super rad. Super scary and super rad. But, and one more thing about it, apparently across the way, somewhere way over far, far away, there's another island and it has the same structures, and they apparently go all the way through that water and over to that other island over there. And so that's why they call it the Giant's Causeway, because Causeway is a bridge, and there's, this is like the bridge of the giants that goes across the sea there. So yeah, I had to throw that in there, but yeah, those drill holes and just the feeling that I got there, like there was more going on than we understood. That also blew me away. And it wasn't so much a synchronicity again, but it was sort of attached to that extended deja vu, psychic sort of whatever synchronicity that I had in kind of making me really stop and question, like, what the hell are we all doing here? Like, what the hell is this thing I'm sitting on, and where did it come from? And like, how are people psychic and know like whole minutes of like experiences down to the minute detail without knowing it? And like, what is going on in life? Like, I was just like losing my little mind in a very good way, in a very, very good way, because I couldn't have necessarily understood as deeply if someone had just come up and said to me, like, did you know you're more than a body, you also have a soul, and there's more going on to this life than just, you getting a job and learning how to drive or whatever, like bullshit was going on in my life at that point. There's a lot more going on actually, and like knock, 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 like remember, and these types of experiences, I think, really prove or serve us in that way, to prove that to us, because you can't just tell somebody, and there is no way to give somebody the complete understanding of what these things are all about unless they experience them themselves. And so I sat out on the roof that night. I snuck out to go smoke. One of the times smoking served me well. And I was sitting up on the roof, and I also had this then realization, and it's like silly now, because now we have the internet and we've heard a billion things and a billion poems and a billion like whatever and ideas. But at the time, this was like a novel idea in my mind that struck me when I was looking up at the stars. I saw Orion, and I was like, oh my God, this is the same sky that whoever had something to do with that Giant's Causeway would have seen. And it's the same sky that I would see back home. And it's the same sky that like every other human in the world is seeing. And then it all got like really small and really close to home. I was like, wow, we're all just having these same experiences over and over again. And we're all the same. Because this had also been my first understanding of, different cultures. Like English people are weird and they eat weird food and like things smell funny here and like, that type of shit. But that night under the sky, I was like, it's exactly the same. It's the same with the people who built Stonehenge as it is right now for me. It's the same exact sky right up there. And there's like slight different, spacings or whatever, but like it's the same exact thing, and they probably have the same exact experiences. They probably sat on something at night and looked up and were like, whoa, this is the same sky as other people are going to see in the future or whatever. So I also had this like, expansive sort of understanding of like how big and how far and how vast, and also how very, very close to home it is, and how very like singular that experience is, and how very personal that experience is. And it gave me that sort of view of the world as well. And so my point in tying those three experiences together is to point out that these, events, when they happen in our life, these synchronicities, they're there to show us something and to teach us something. And the hope, I think, is that we don't forget those things once we learn them, and that we start to apply them more and more. Because I think part of our society, the problem is that we are divorced from those types of understandings, and we're divorced from those types of experiences. And when people have these types of experiences, someone inevitably asks them, "Were you sober?" No offense, Philip. I love it. It's a good question. You should ask people. But, we have this understanding that these things aren't normal and that they're not really rational and that there's something kind of like weird or wrong with them. And my understanding has been more and more so that these actually are the things that are supposed to be happening. These are supposed to be part of our human experience. And, God or the Great Spirit or the Divine Spirit or whatever that is to you, it's trying to get your attention and get you to remember those things. And that's what these experiences are. Shortly after that time, I came, back home, obviously, and I had an amazing Europe trip. There was a lot more to that trip, but not a lot more sort of on those levels of being. But I, came back home and did more drugs. So I had more struggle and strife, and you forget these amazing occurrences that happen to you, and the lessons you learned therein when you're back in your sort of routine daily, like, this is how I operate in the world. I didn't necessarily forget, but I didn't necessarily like apply anything to my life from it. And I just started getting really inundated with this, how the world was falling apart. This is when I'm like 16 because I was driving. So I'm like 16 now. And I'm like, dude, the world is fucked. Like, adults don't even get that credit cards are fucking ruining the world. Like, adults don't even understand that credit is just paper, fake money, and therefore all money is fake, and like that, like, nothing is real. This is like before the internet. I'm like trying to like talk to adults in my life, like teachers and my mom. I'm like, what's up with credit? Like, what do you think that is? Like, what are we pretending is happening here? There's nothing there. There's no value there. Like, nobody gets this. Like, and this is before I understood the gold standard shit and all that. I just like had this thing where I was just starting to see like how fucked everything was. And I was like, what is this school bullshit? Like, you've just had us in these fucking cages for years and we're just sitting here like memorizing bullshit. Like, why we can go out and do something? Like, let's learn some real shit here. And people got sick of it pretty quick. They're like, my teachers were like, what is wrong with this bitch? My mom was like, God, she never shuts up. And, like, nobody really knew how to handle that necessarily. But a lot of people in my grade and stuff were kind of like hip to this sort of shit. I think our grade, we graduated my class on the millennium 2000. And so I think there's like maybe something to our grade that was sort of like tuned into that sort of shit, because then like the Matrix came out eventually and that like poked even more holes and shit. But anyway, I was having these types of realizations that the world was a hugely false place of control and illusion, like deep-seated illusion that like no one wanted to look at. And that's hard. That's actually a really hard place to be. It's hard to be like, look at that burning thing in the room. Like, no one wants to look at the burning thing, and everyone's like, what burning thing, you freak? Like, it's hard. You get like lonely, and you get kind of hopeless. And again, pre-internet, I couldn't find other people who thought like me necessarily. And so yeah, and I'm not saying I was immune from like I also had like drama and like boyfriends and like whatever jobs and like friends and stuff. So I was like still sucked into all those worlds, and that wasn't a bad thing. But I did also have this side of me that was seeing all of this shit and was kind of lonely within it. And so I, thank you, Sonia. I've also always learned from you, by the way. But you know that. But yeah, so I had gone to a friend's house and we were hanging out, and this person is very important in my life. And if he's listening to this, he knows who he is. And he was like really concerned with GoldenEye and like which guns he had or something, or like who he was killing or whatever. And I was probably trying to like get him to think about, God or like souls or whatever I was always trying to do, and nothing like. And I guess I just remember leaving there being like, this is like one of my best friends, and I can't even like get him to like think about shit. Like no, like adults don't even get credit. And like what the fuck? And I had this like breakdown where I was just like, I can't live like this. Like I cannot live the rest of my life seeing all this shit and having no one fucking care. Like how will I live like this? And I was like I was starting to like really have a breakdown. Like I was getting emotional. I was starting to cry. And for the first time in my entire life, I decided I'm going to ask, which at the time and still is in a way, my conception was God. I was going to ask God. Like, what the fuck, God? Like, what is this bullshit that you have set up here on this fucked up world? And why is it so fucked? And the way I actually phrased the question in my mind is, should I give up now? Is this like the most pointless endeavor I've ever undertaken, is to try and like ask questions or like get people to think about things? And like literally at that moment, first of all, I didn't know the song was playing at the time, and I like later had to figure out what the song was and how to get it and how to listen to it 600,000 times to like, put it in my brain or whatever. But the song was Incubus's Drive. If you've ever heard it, that the lyrics, the chorus gets to a point where it says, whatever tomorrow brings, I'll be there with open arms and open eyes. So that lyric hit my brain for the first time. I'd never heard it before. That lyric hit my brain at the same time as an owl swooped down, and the way that it swooped down into my car, its entire body was the windshield. Tip to tip, like tip to tip. What is this, a sex talk? Wingtip to wingtip was the side of the window. It filled up the whole window. An owl flew from darkness out of like nowhere and filled up the whole window right as I was hearing the lyrics, whatever tomorrow brings, I'll be there with open arms and open eyes. Right as I had asked the question to God, should I give up? That's a synchronicity. That's what we call synchronicity. I got a fucking hell of an answer. Like a real strong, fuck you, no. You're gonna be there, you're gonna stick around, and you're going to be there with open arms and open eyes. And so again, I had this second sort of experience of like, whoo, wow, there's like way more going on in this world than just a bunch of bullshit and credit cards and environmental destruction and, education as indoctrination and all the bullshit I was sort of seeing through at the time. Like a lot more important things than any of that too. And so as much as I didn't instantly become happy, by no means was I like, oh, okay, I'm like here for the ride, and God told me or my higher self told me or whatever. I still, again, these experiences are, deep acting, like they strike in, and that's why they're orchestrated in these ways that are so synchronous, because you have multiple sensory inputs at once that are all colliding at the same exact time, along with an understanding that has formed. And the understanding that formed at that time for me was, I'm here for the ride. Like I'm here until it ends. And that's might be scary, and it might be sad, and it might be horrible. And the door just opened. Oh God. That freaked me out so bad. I was like, why is the door opening? And it's because a human being opened the door. So no, it was good timing. It was a synchronicity. And that synchronicity taught me that not everything that happens that's unexplainable is actually unexplainable. Some of it's just a person opening a door. But I really deeply understood at that moment that whatever it was, all those things that I couldn't control, and all of the loneliness I felt in it, might continue, but that there was a reason for it, and that there was a pretty strong answer of like, yeah, no, don't give up yet. You're going to keep going. And I did. And I have. And here I am. And the owl is still my friend, and the owl still is synchronous for me in many ways. Many times he comes and reminds me of all sorts of things throughout life. And I'm very lucky for that. Very lucky for that. And, I think just like I read a little bit too much into the door opening for a minute. I was like, oh God, what does it mean? we can like read a little bit too much into some things, and we can be expecting a little bit too much, and we can start to see like patterns where there are none, and we can start to see meaning where there is none. And I even think that's bullshit. I think just like Nietzsche said, we create meaning, and that's our job as humans. That's part of our job as humans, is to create meaning and to imbue moments and objects and interactions with meaning. And I think that's true, and I love that about us. And so I think you should imbue meaning into these things, whether they're patterns you're finding out of nowhere or not. I think that's part of the process, and I think that's part of what's good, true, and beautiful about us. And so there's nothing wrong with that. But there is obviously, and I think we all can think of examples when we have read too much into something or misinterpreted something, like the door opening, or when you get like a bit too like caught into that process of like looking for those things, at that moment when that owl came, or at the time when I had the deja vu, or many of the other billions of synchronicities I could tell you in my life. At those moments, you just know. You have like a knowing, right? You don't have to ask, did that mean something or not? Is this just the thing happening or not? It's like, like, oh, okay, that is the thing. This is the message, and this is the moment, and that was real right there. And that's why that happened, is to put that into you, is it's real, you experience it, it's a gnosis you now have, an understanding you now have. Whereas when you have this sort of kind that's like, I don't know, is it meaningful? Like, it's probably not as, that's my, like, shed doubt on other people's, and I don't want you to feel like I'm telling you that something you experienced isn't meaningful. I just, in talking about these things, I always have to point out that can happen, especially once you have like a big one. You like then start looking forever, and not everything is a synchronicity, and not every coincidence is necessarily a synchronicity, although most of them are pretty nice little winks from the universe. So we do want to take them when we get them, and receive them, and think about them. And like I've said multiple times already, I think the meaning of them is just that there is more going on here than our physical bodies sitting in these rooms and doing like whatever we're doing. It's a psycho-spiritual process we're going through, and it's a psycho-spiritual experience we're having, and that exists beyond this, above this, like within this, like all around this. All this really is that. And so, it's impossible to just implement this understanding deeply in your life of being like, well, I'm a soul, so who really cares about all this bullshit? But that comes full circle back to the beginning, because that's part of why coronavirus or whatever like doesn't really scare me, because I know without a shadow of a doubt that I'm a soul, and that I go back to that, whatever that is. I came from it, and I go back to it. And God, or the Great Spirit, or whatever you call it, that energy, that entity has shown itself to me so many times in so many poignant ways. And I know that you can think of the times in your life where it's done the same for you, to remind you that this isn't all there is, and don't get too caught up in it. Take what you can, get the experiences you came to get. You have to be in the physical body, and you have to not know everything that's coming your way in order to have those experiences. But don't let yourself become destroyed over the fear of what might come, when you knew you were headed there anyway. You knew you were headed back to source anyway. That's the only given in life, is that you're going to die. And it's going to be okay. And I hope that I hope you're not taking from this that like, it's cool to die, or you should die, or that like you don't need to try not to die, or whatever. I'm not saying that at all. We all want you here desperately. You came for a reason, and we want you to be here and fulfill that reason. But just don't try, at least, to remember those experiences in your life where you knew that you were more than your body, and that no stinking virus can ever affect your soul, and neither can quarantine, if that's what they do, or social distancing, if that's what we're calling it, or I guess the nice euphemism in San Francisco is what are they calling it? A 24-hour curfew. It's a 24-hour curfew. It's not a quarantine. It's a 24-hour curfew. You stay inside 24 hours a day. It's a 24-hour curfew. I'm like, oh, how nice of you to have come up with a random ass term that means nothing. Whether that's what happens, or Oh, thank you, Trey. Trey is always supporting the show. It means a lot to me. Um, and I think I just saw Sue as well. No, I just made that up. Well, Sue, if you're out there, what's up? And if not, then I just put you here anyway. And Courtney, what's up, Courtney? Um, but yeah, whether that comes and, the National Guard is being deployed, and I'm like, okay, I mean, we deploy National Guard a lot. There's a lot of different emergencies that we experience as a country, and we deploy the National Guard. So that's in itself, like, whatever, they can deploy the National Guard if they want to. And some people are like, martial law! And I'm like, I mean, not yet, maybe. Like, it's possible, but martial law is a lot different from deploying National Guard troops. And it's a lot different from quarantining and whatever. And so if we got to martial law, it'd be very interesting. And I'm not saying that's not where they're pushing it, that direction. That could well be where they want to go. Apparently, they did do that in their scenario that they ran, the Event 201. I'm told that they did a martial law, and I'm also told they did a shutdown of social media, which we've also seen some sort of telegraphing about. So those things could be coming our way. I and many people yesterday and today have been getting Facebook, notices that we've gone against their community standards for things that don't go against community standards at all. Like, really, really not even close. Like, mine was a post about a bank like forgiving credit card debt, and I said something like, this has surprisingly few details in this article. And they said that went against community star standards. And I was like, a bank article? And all I said was, it doesn't have details? Like, that's pretty weird. So I think that's them sort of telegraphing that, like, hey, we're going to pretend to have a bunch of malfunctions so that we can have a good excuse for shutting down Facebook. So that could happen. And I'm also not scared of that, because we lived life, in Ireland under the stars back in the day without any Facebook. And, I go on vacation sometimes where I have no Facebook, and, I know that we can have no Facebook and be good. If you are in Eyes Open, I do have an email list if we have internet, that I can send up updates and just say what's up to people. And then I also am doing a physical address list. I know we're all sort of conspiracy theorists and we don't like to share addresses, but if you trust me and you want to, and if I'm capable of sending mail, then I will also send a snail mail newsletter to you all, just for fun, if it comes to that, just to keep our spirits up and to keep us connected to each other as best as possible, because that's what's important. And yeah, if they do declare martial law, then definitely be careful, because that's when they can do literally anything they want without repercussion. And that's a bit scary, depending on what sort of scenarios they want to pretend are going on. So that's a lot more worrisome to me than any virus ever has been. And even then, I choose not to live in fear about it, because I can't know until I get there if it will even happen. I can't know until I get there if it will even affect me. And I can't do anything about it by being stressed out and scared about it. In fact, any situation that I'm ever going to face, I'm going to face better if I am calm and collected, and I remember that core lesson that synchronicities teach me, which is that I exist beyond this body and that things are arranged in my life for a reason, and I trust that process, whatever it is. And that doesn't mean I'm lazy, and that doesn't mean I don't get my things in order, and that doesn't mean I don't have a lot of food stored up and ready to go. It doesn't mean that all the things I said, that I'm not trying to keep my body healthy and my mind healthy. I'm doing all of those things. And I'm doing them so that whatever tomorrow brings, I'll be there with open arms and open eyes, in the best of health that I can be, and therefore hold the best energy in those moments that I can, and with the clarity of mind, perform whatever necessary actions I might need to perform, from a place of calm knowingness instead of a place of blind panic or fear. Nothing good ever happened in a state of blind panic or fear. Really good things happen in states of calm knowingness, and so that's what we want to aim to do. So I never want to tell people, don't pay attention, or, don't get prepared. Do those things. Just, again, if the fear comes and it's strong, it's really easy to catch, and if it comes, just work to get that out of you. Let it go. Go ground it out somewhere. Go give it, what do they say? Give it to God. I give it to the ground. I give it to Earth. She can take it. She's like the eternal sink. She wants it. It feeds her. She doesn't mind, at least. And so you can do that too. That song was Drive by Incubus. I think it's Drive that says that. I hope I'm not wrong. What's up, Jeff? Nice to see Jeff in the chat. There is a Sue. I was right. So yeah, I also, I think people have this weird thing with me where they're like, oh, she's all like love and light and foo-foo. And then you know me long enough and you're like, oh, that bitch will fight. Like, I can be really aggressive. And I've talked about that on the show a bit. And so if you know me or you heard that episode, these are parts of me too. I own a gun. I have 3 clips. They're all fully loaded. And I have a stock of bullets. And I'm not opposed innately or inherently to violence. Although, again, if you are ever going to be violent, it should be for a really good reason, because that is a permanent action you're making and you can never take it back. And so especially if you're acting from a place of panic or fear, you're going to make decisions that are not rational and you're going to regret those. So if I ever use that gun for anything other than just practice, it's going to be because I'm in a place of calm knowingness and I know that this is what needs to happen to protect myself or another person who is innocent. And so I'm not all love and light and frou-frou. I'm just mostly that. And I have a tinge of I'll kill you if you fuck with me. Just a tinge. That's all we need. Just a little bit of that. Keep that little bit alive. What's up, Jay Marley? Jay Marley's in the house too. And I just want to say also, and having said all of that, that, I think there's other people who think that I'm being irresponsible in promoting calm and health. And I would like to, address that by saying I'm not in any way saying that you should not stand up for your rights or yourself. In fact, I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying if, and I hate even going into these scenarios because who knows what tomorrow brings, and who knows, how it will come. But let's just say they declared martial law and they came rolling down our streets and they had like their mobile vaccination unit and they were forcing vaccinations. That would be a moment that I would definitely say, you can fuck yourself. There's nothing that's going to make me take that vaccine, period. Like especially the situation under which it was rolled out shows that it's not for my own good at all. And so I would refuse that no matter the consequence. And I don't accept or agree that there should be a consequence, or that that's legal or allowable. I don't consent to that at all. However, if that was how it were presented to me, I would still refuse no matter what. So there's scenarios and situations where I think it's absolutely right to stand up for yourself, for your rights, to do what you think is right, to protect yourself and others who are innocent, and to be prepared to do those things if that's a role that you want to play in the world. But you don't have to. You can do whatever you would like. That is the way that I would like to live. And those are the things that I would like to embody by being them. And so I aim to do that. Again, I hope that never happens. I hope I never have that choice presented to me. But yeah, if it does, then that's where I'm going with it. So I am never, ever telling you not to act and not to be prepared and not to, stand up for yourself. I'm always advising a gigantic amount of caution with violence because whoever you think they are, they know exactly what to do with violence and they would love that. They would love it if you would come out with guns blazing and just start freaking out because it's super obvious to everyone then what happens to you, and it seems right. And so I just advise caution with these kind of, it's easy to like be afraid, see what their machinations are, see them kind of coming with some sort of agenda and be like, we need to fight, like that kind of fight. And I'm not in support of that. I see you can go back and watch other episodes where I point out all the various revolutions that have happened and how they've been, programmed and organized and expected and intended and desired and just ended up with the same people with more power, even more power. And so I just really, again, think that the best thing that you can do is to come from a place of calm knowing and act for the best interest of yourself and the innocent people around you in the moments that require them and not in other moments. And so I hope that that's clear. And I hope that, I like criticism, people should bring it, and I'm glad that people have it. But I just want to address those few because I think maybe that wasn't understood. And I'm going to say, what's up to Lavendra Unicorn? Nice to have you here. Welcome. And how long have we been going? Oh, wow. So, yeah, I think that that's basically what I wanted to say. I also want to point out, I'm also not saying when I advise against these sort of violent uprising style revolutions, I'm in no way saying that you should just lay down and accept reality as they're creating it for you. In fact, I think very much the opposite, and that you should do everything you can to create alternative structures, and most of those look like community building. And you create alternative structures in which people, which is what government is, take care of each other, which is what government was meant to be. And that is a community. It's always going to be a community of some kind. And whether that comes in the form of having a community garden or just getting to know your neighbors and asking them if they need any TP or oregano oil or whatever, or like building houses for each other, which a lot of communities do. We have Hearts and Hammers where I'm from, and it's a beautiful program that was organized in the community and pulled off by the community and funded by the community and creates houses for people to live in forever. So you can do anything you want. And Buckminster Fuller is one of my heroes, and he said the same thing. And there's a lot of smart thinkers that say the same thing, which is that you don't change things by destroying the system. You change things by creating a new system. And that is the best way to move forward. And it's not like the pussy escapist method. It's the method that works the best, that is the hardest to stop and the easiest to start and the easiest to keep going. So I wanted to throw that out there again as well. Jeff is saying from what he heard, shit's going to be shut down Friday or Monday. I keep hearing that, and it keeps not being true. So maybe, who knows? Again, it's the same no matter what. Is you still just are going to take care of yourself and be ready for, taking care of yourself and each other, and keep that sense of self and keep centered and keep connected and move forward into, life is just as unknown right now as it was 4 years ago, 4 weeks ago, 4 days ago. Innately, inherently to our existence, nothing has changed. It's the same thing. We can still move forward with the same skills and the same tools and the same understandings of what it is to be alive and what we want to accomplish in our lives. All that's changed is all this outside shit that we can't necessarily control anyway. And they really, 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 really want us to be afraid of it. So try. Do let that fear go and get back to that place where you know calmly what you're about and why you're here, which is not just to be a physical body, right? Oh, Lavendra, I really thought that you had been here before. Maybe I'm having a deja vu right now. But welcome. I'm glad you found the channel, and I'm glad that you're checking it out. But yeah, just you came here for a reason. And so don't let people push you around and take your rights away. But also don't give up your, life, liberty, and happiness by living in fear and cowering all of the time. And just like waiting for them to give you news of like what new fear they're going to send your way and like what form it's going to come. Like, let it go. Let it go and have your life, liberty, and happiness right where you're at right now. Like no matter what's happening, you can do that. Brew yourself some tea, do some yoga or something. Like watch a silly episode of some show that's hilarious or funny or pointless with someone that you love, like don't fall into their traps of striking out blindly in anger or fear or whatever at just random targets that happen to be around in hopes that like it might end up like keeping you alive for a few days longer. That's not necessarily the goal of life, is it? The goal of life is to have lived really, really well and to have developed yourself as much as you could while you were here, and to always keep connected to that goodness that we know exists just beyond us and just outside of us and actually permeating every aspect of us, and to keep that energy here and alive and going for other people to remember, you're reminding them too, as you're embodying that, you're like shining that light out so that they can be like, oh yeah, that's that thing that like I was doing, which was nothing to do with hoarding toilet paper. It was actually to do with being more loving to myself and others or whatever. You're holding that here. You're keeping that alive and keeping that going. And so, and in the end, of course, like, don't just listen to me either. Like, go out and experience for yourself. And you know those things. You don't need me to tell you. You know that you're more than a soul. And you can find out, you know, through your own trials and tribulations and through your own experiences of synchronicity and wonder and reminders from the universe that more shit's going on than what we're told, you know. And so I'm sure you can relate to most of what I shared of my own experiences. And I would love to hear your experiences as well. If you want to leave them in the comments or send them my way in email or messenger or whatever. You know, I like to remember that these things are the truth of who we are. And so until you embody all of that truth in every beautiful moment of your beautiful life and share it with all of those around you in a glorious spout of reminder of all that is true, even while you keep your guns close by, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
It's a one-on-one lesson, so do your homework. Make your dome hurt while up on earth. My bones are blessed from holy dirt. Vibes manifested to words that told me search for verbs and adjectives to describe birth. Worth more than one can speak. While the tongue beats a weak, a sour taste in your mouth, bittersweet. Words can also kill you when you sleep. Mind condition, low frequencies while the subconscious mind listens. I can tell a vision filled with lies disguised as truth, and spread it like the word to the youth. Watch the tube. A place where the God gets food is sorcery. To recreate a God forgery does more than meets the eye. Not too many know. Just hear me flow like the eye of Horus Penny, yo. Yeah, not ready to leave until we believe we're free to go. You hear me, yo?
Sculpted from the ether, the material will eat ya. Stuck on this plane, lanes use jet fuel to greet ya. The dimensional three ain't beating me on top of the fourth. Didn't climb Jacob's ladder to squab with a sword. Forged with Yggdrasil, branched down. Try quiet your lamps now. Ascension past the matter, that they slam out they damn mouths. We ain't on land now, but they under over in a stand. Sacrificing wisdom, hoarding dumber kosher wicked hands. Putting faith in worthless worship of the mortals. Artificial portals, mass ingestion of the black goo. Bioengineered morsels, conversing with machine elves. Bypassing maggots, they stuck on Android screens now. I'm scrolling emerald tablets. Moloch living lavish, off the backs of the savage. Them clasped hands at the Sabbath. Smack of energy damage, they done twisted the tongues. But nanotech in the lungs, the awakening's begun. All they really can do is fucking run.